just like screw all of it. Okay, so earlier, like up here, it kind of showed like there was network, like low connection, and then like towards the end of the heifer show, like it ended the live show, and I think it was because of that. So just watch it, and if for some reason it does that, one of y'all come find me and we'll get it back on. But since the heifer show, we haven't had that issue. Okay? So yeah, so you just might have to move it. Us going to just watch how, like, his first steer show was fine. Like, here and everything, but her lambs we kind of had to slightly move. So, alright, y'all have fun. Appreciate it.
It's better than eating out. I did that. It's great.
I'll check on my phone.
Yeah, I need like more info.
All right, welcome to our Hale County Goat Show. In this first class, we've got weights ranging from 50 to 67 pounds.
I thought he was going to be like this because this was not so much.
It's a good way to start here in our new show. I think we have some quality here at the front of our class. And one that I have to use is the one for me. It's the best just in terms of his body type and gait. He's the one that's best in his underline, the one that's the freshest to the touch right there in his rack back. He's the one that you get in front of him or reading from behind. He's the stoutest, he's the densest in terms of his forearm and his bone work. Comes to his wider, leaves wider, bigger pin, deeper twisted. Now, I like to level him right behind his blade. Pulls up on his chin a little bit, and that probably makes him drop back there just a little behind his shoulder, a little more than normal. I like to level him in terms of his pin set compared to the one that comes in two. And so there's some things I've changed there, but I like that one to lead off. The one that comes two in class, lever top line, lever here out through his hip and knock. Gets narrower in his front end, gets a little flatter in his cave. Doesn't show us the forearm shape that we see in our class winner. One for me that's not quite as stout and dense in his forearm, not as big in his pin set, deep in his twist, or as shapely as our class winner. But a nice one here that comes in two. He's got more cage and he's fresher to the touch than the one in three. This one in three, he's got some wild parts and pieces. If you like his added length of body, I do too. If you like his added shallowness up to his chest from the side, I do too. Here we got to get a little better presentation, frankly. We want to freshen him up right in his forehead, freshen his loinet just a bit. He's got a good future ahead of him. He needs to get shown just a bit better out here. The one that comes forward in class, a little flatter in terms of her design, a little further comparative to the top three that we have out here in class. One that I like from a shape standpoint. I think she gets bigger in her chest, better in her pin set than the one directly behind her. One that comes next in class, a little plainer in terms of his hop and his back pasture, a little narrower chested, with a lighter muscle when you get your hands on this one. Want to just shape him up a bit more and freshen him up compared to the ones that come in front. One that comes next in class, big, kind of bigger footed, bigger, more elevated kind of female, plays out in terms of shape, keep your hands on her. We want to freshen that one up, wrap back out through her hip and pin set. And then we round out our class with the frailest, most vertical option in terms of structure. Want to relax that one, shoulder and knee, and just put her on bigger pikes, make her stouter out there at the surface. Congratulate these kiddos, if you will, on last class.
All right, our results for class one. In first place, we have Breckin Thrasher. Second place, Creed Evans. Third, Fleet Barrett. Fourth, Hale Brunson. Fifth, we have Scotland Bickle. Sixth, we have Cade Pinkerton. Seventh, we have Cade Pinkerton. All right, next in the ring will be class two, and we have weights ranging from 69 pounds to 73 pounds.
nice class out here. One I land on is the one that's a combination in terms of stoutness, in terms of width, body and cage, freshness, and handling touch. I think he put together the best here. He and the one in second are significantly denser just in terms of bone work, foot size, depth of leg, and twist than the one that sets in three. I like the one that leads off because he's stronger behind his blade. I like the fact that he's a little more genuine in terms of level. In terms of levelness, from hooks to pins, I think he's a bit neater at the lower point of his shoulder. Like I said, comes stouter down to the ground than the one in three. This one that sets two in class, big feet, big feature, really neat cage in this one. Just a lot more stoutness in terms of bone work and foot size than the one that comes three. He gives up a little bit of look in his lower shoulder compared to three. I like that one, smoothness of shoulder blade. I think that one fits together just a bit neater, but well it should, because three is significantly frailer at the surface, smaller footed, drier just in terms of lower forehead and cage, and then you get right in behind her and watch her move. She's not as genuine where she sets her back leg placement, a little frailer, a little drier just in terms of her depth of twist comparative. I like the rack shape, and I like the loin edge in this one. She is the best handling last rib back for me. You've done a very good job of beating that one. Want her stouter down low to match up high, what we see in that one. The one that comes four in class, good looking from the side, tall shoulder, gets a little narrower chested, not as racked up, not as shaped up, not as dense in terms of bone work as even the one set in three or the two that come up front. That one's got to be more cylindrical in terms of body shape. We have to set his shoulder angle and knee back just a bit to make him move better out of his front end, make him bulkier in terms of his rack. Pretty good goat right here comes young man in the red vest. That one's got a little more cage than the one directly in front. Hard to get a look at it because she doesn't want to walk around here. We need to have one just level out and go and walk. A little rougher in terms of how she's organized up front. Leans forward just a little bit, drops out behind her plate. No question she's a little shorter and rounder in her hip structure than those that come in front. Good at one just in terms of leanness and firmness to the touch comes next in class. That one gets knee forward, flatter in her rib cage, narrower coming, narrower pin as that one tracks away from us. One that's next in class, a little general just in terms of our look, needs to be stout and down low, wider, more muscular. Similar story in the back, have to widen that one out. Wide a bit, pull it apart in the chest, make it bigger in the upper hip, pin set, more shapely to move up in class. Good set of goats out here. Congratulations, kids, if you will.
Placings in Class 2. First place, Gracie Joe Newsom. Second place, Cleet Barrett. Third place, Hale Brunson. Fourth, Kellen Hart. Fifth, Creed Evans. Sixth, Miley Truxman. Seventh, Scotland Bickle. And eighth, Renee Morgan. All right, we'll have Class 3 entering the ring with weights ranging from 74 to 78 pounds.
next class here, some differences up at the front end. I'll tell you what I see in these and why I rank them the way I do. One that leads off is the stoutest, the one that's truly the widest, the most dimensional in the cage. For me, she's easily the biggest back, the freshest back there across her loin, one that jumps the biggest right out the back of her blade. Biggest hip, biggest pin, one of the stouter legged ones out here. Now, I'm going to tell you, she's a little too low fronted to make me happy. I'd like to elevate her there. I'd like to tuck her up in her chest floor. And I want to make that one level her hip comparative to the world of livestock as we look at it. Sort of lift her in her pin set, level her out, make her just a notch more attractive. Taller version and an option comes in two. One here that's not nearly as fresh to the touch, not as dimensional as you get over the top side of her skeleton, not as big in her foot size, not as deep in her twist, but I like her better than the 1 in 3. She's better at her shoulder angle, her knee sets back into her more comfortably. She handles a bit fuller and fresher at the back edge of her loin, and I think she's tucked in at the top of her jump muscle just a bit neater than the 1 in 3. Well, this 1 in 3 is not a good turn to his cage. He's cylindrical. He's thick-footed. I like that about him. Pretty fresh rack. It's a little drier at the edge of his loin. He's a little plainer in terms of his shoulder angle and where we set his knee. For me, I just want to make him a notch trendier looking, elevate him up front a bit, make him a little better in terms of his knee placement. When we get on the side, he could be a notch more dimensional out through his hip. The big muscle one comes next, and if you heard me pull her, I said big muscles comes next. And I like the big muscles in this guy. I like his underline. I like him propped up here way better than I do moving. We get him in motion, realize how much shape he has up high versus where his feet are. We want to change that one down low, stouten him at the ground, strengthen him behind his blade. I want to level him out of his hip, wrangle his hock and his back foot back into him. He's too soft in his pasture and he's too frail in his foot size. Well, we can change that up, strengthen his top line, make him lever pin. I like that one quite a bit from a cutability standpoint. Big shoulder goat comes next in class, gets a little plain looking compared to the rest. Flatter in his shoulder, one that's plainer in terms of foot size and muscularity. That one's got to be rounder bodied and stouter. We come down to a pair here toward the bottom. They're just a little plain looking, pelty, if you will, just in terms of touch and handle. They've got to have more muscle shape to move up in this particular class. Put your hands together for all these kids.
Placings in class 3. First, Helen Hart. Second, Hale Brunson. Third, Minnie Ruiz. Fourth, Bonnie Thrasher. Fifth, Christopher Prutzman. Sixth, Reagan Wynn. Seventh, Reagan Wynn. We will now show for the lightweight division championship. And so we will have those two out of this class, is Gracie Joe Newsom and Cleve Barrett out of class 2, and Brecken Thrasher and Creed Evans out of class 1.
Well, and I said winners and seconds out of these respective classes. Out of the first class, had one just better body and denser comparative to the one in second. need this one to look a little neater in terms of top line and hip angle, but a really nice one here from a density, shape, and touch standpoint. Second out of that class, a little cooler looking, taller shoulder, leather in terms of top line and hip, not as much to it, just in terms of his forearm, his shape, his rib cage, his dimension out through his hip. It's good stock comes there out of that first class. Second class, unique class winner here, just in terms of foot size and width, fresh in his body and fresh in his touch. One that you appreciate, he's tiny, but I appreciate that thing for all the good that he brings to the table. For me, he's stronger back, he's leather hipped and pinned, neater in his lower shoulder and chest than the one that was two. When it comes to shapely back, one big footed, it's a little plainer in his lower shoulder. You can see his chest stick out the front there. Want to tuck him back in his blade, strengthen him out there in his top line. But a nice one there, second in that class. Big muscles comes here in this particular class winner. Very, very fresh, big back, one that's truly dimensional up top. Gets a little lower set in her shoulder and chest. One that rounds just a little more in her hip. Better looking option, more elevated option was second in that particular class. Not near as much horsepower when you get right on top and read that one from the top. We just don't have near as much punch in the wide-headed one in rack shape, loin edge, or dimension out through her hip. Things we like to change about each one of them. High quality stock out here. Put your hands together for these kiddos. I get to see I like out of this place division.
Your lightweight division champion is shown by Kellen Hart, reserved by Gracie Joe Newsom. Now we'll be bringing class 4 into the arena with weights ranging from 79 to 82 pounds.
good way to start here in this particular division. And the young ladies that leads off up front, for me, that's Italy, the best one here. He's the nicest balance. He's the most built up into his chest. His neck fits into him the best. Here's the one that is fresh body, fresh centered, fresh touching, and just proportions so good from the side. I like his strength of top line, his elevation, his youthfulness compared to the one that comes in too. And I like his flexibility out of his shoulder, his front skeleton, his hawk and pasture compared to the one in two. Nice place to start. We can make that one bigger and bolder in relation to the world of goats, right there behind his blade, all the way out to his hip and pin set, but high quality stock and a good place to lead off here. Young lady's doe kit comes 2 in class, big barrel, big millet, kind of a female. Love the one edge in this one. I like her levelness out through her hip as we set her in motion. She gets a little lower set in her neck, a little lower to the surface, a little straighter fronted, if you will. I want to relax her at her knee and her shoulder angle, elevate her up front. Compared to her classware, she's not as big and bold in terms of her rack shape. I do like her cage, I like her genuine whip, I like her shape compared to the rest here. The one that comes in 3, fresh back option here, and the one that's got some foot size, one that's pretty long spine, just in terms of our underline. For me, it's just a little plainer as we get back to our hip. Once the wedge hooks the pins, doesn't tie as deep into our leg, doesn't square as good in terms of our hop placement on the boot, but a nice one sits in 3. I like the look up front of the one in 4 a little better than the one in 3. Here's one that gets a little further down low, a little tighter and drier in terms of where our one hooks to our hip. Want to freshen that one's body, freshen that one's underline just a bit to make them more competitive here. Young man in the hat's got one that's bigger body, that comes truly a little wider than the one directly in front of him. Gets a little rough in terms of his assembly, doesn't balance as well. Neck sits low around her shoulder, shorter, steeper around her hip. Round out our class with one that is just genuinely a little taller and better looking, a little longer and longer hip than the one right in front of you. That's the narrowest, that's the lightest muscle, the flattest of the class. We have to stout that one up and pull her apart to make her better here and move up toward the front of our class. Congratulate these kids if you will.
Placing in class 4, we have first, Bergen Steers, second, Harold Reed, third, Miley Crutchman, fourth, Dee Ruiz, fifth, Avery Johnson, sixth, Avery Leon. And then we have class 7, class 5, about to come into the race with weight from 83 to 87 pounds.
Seven. My sister.
Did you get one? I think it is perfect. Did you get the school system or do you already have it? No, I got
Well, in this class here, I think we've got some significant muscularity and freshness differences amongst here. We get that kind of core up in this particular class. Top trio of these for me are pretty genuine, just in terms of width and shape, and in terms of body type and balance. I like their hip and legs in them. This top trio just a bit better than 1 and 4. This one that leads off, I think he does so. He's a more comfortable option in terms of his movement. He's big bodied, he's fresh back. He's not as elevated as where I'd like to see him, not as elevated as long as the one that comes in too, but he's just more comfortable out here on the move. He wants to go, he wants to function just a bit better, or to get a great look at the 1 and 2. I like this second place one just from look from the side. if you watch me do the sheep show, I like them tall shoulders and elevated. I like them good looking, and he's the better looking option. Not as fresh back as our class winner and on his ball, just in terms of his forehead. Just doesn't get around and go like we'd like to see him. He is stronger behind his plate. He's leveler out to his hip than the one that comes three in class. I feel like he's doing a little more pulling than she is pushing, and it takes away from his top line and his look. If you get on either end of this one and third and just read him in terms of sheer width and density, he comes to a stouter, particularly out to his hip, pin set, hawk placement than the one that's in four. I like when you get him behind him, he's just more genuine in terms of hip width, in terms of the way he handles his back leg posture. That one squares up quite a bit better going directly away from us. This one in four handles good right there behind his blade. You can see from this angle in the side, he wants to get drive on edge. He wants to round in his loin, gets narrower pin. You step right in behind him and watch him go away. He pulls his hocks together. Want to open that one up. He's good from his last trip forward. Just want to change quite a bit there in terms of mass from his last trip back. When it comes next in class, great big muscles. That one has more muscle shape than the one directly in front of her. Here's one, though, that's just plainer and drier in terms of skin. One that's not as unique in terms of look from the side. Need to make that one stouter down low, but that one's got some quality as well. Wide option, big barrel kind of an option comes next in class. Young lady, that one's just a little trail down low at the surface. Just round her out of her hip. A little wedgier pin pulls our hops back together, not as stout down low. White-headed one next in class, just a little plainer in terms of balance from the side. Want to make that one more unique down her top line and out her hip. She does have more shape than the one that rounds out our class. Bigger footed option here on the back. The narrowest, the lightest muscle that we have here in this particular group. Let's congratulate all these kids on this class.
Placing for class 5. First place, Mason Hart. Second place, Graham Newsom. Third place, Inslee Blackburn. Fourth place, Jake Olcock. Fifth place, Injamarzon Ali. Sixth place, we have Breckin Thrasher. Seventh place, Jay Pinkerton. Eighth place, Hector Hernandez. Entering the ring now, we have class 6, weight ranging from 88 to 92.
We've got a good class out here. I think the trio there, once again, that sort themselves up. I think structural integrity sorts the pair ahead of three. And then I just think elevation and stoutness down low and strength of top line, freshness of hip, and smoothness of where that loin blends back into that hip sort that pair for me. I think that's close, and there's some trade-off and give and take in that pair. The one I like up front's the one that comes wider and just in terms of his face width. He's the one that's bolder right there behind his blade. He's bigger in terms of his loin edge. He's bigger and fresher where his edge hits his hip. That one for me just gets a little more unique in terms of his levelness out through his top line, out through his hip and pin step. I like the underline probably of the 1 and 2 just a bit better. He's a little softer spined, and yet it works here for him because he is good in his center body. He runs up into his chest. I like that one. Soundness better than the one that comes 3 in class. His shoulder angle reads better. His reach out front, his flexibility, and his hop and his passer, it just works a bit better for me. The one that comes 3 in class, that one is actually bolder, more similar to our class winner in terms of his shape and his rack and his point edge. You set him in motion, he's more rigid up front in terms of his shoulder and knee. You can see from the side here, he wants to taper into his skin set from the side and the 3/4. That one doesn't handle his hop as good, as flexible as that pair up front. But that is a big muscle, good handling one that I just want to see move a bit better. His loin edge and his hip are better than the one that comes next in class. This one gets a little dry center, carries more set in his hop than we need. One that rounds at his loin edge just a bit more than is ideal. I like the fact that he's better in his lower shoulder and his front knee than the one that comes next right there behind him. This one behind him has some shape and some dimension, a little plainer in terms of skeletal quality. I like his elevation. I like his genuine framework a bit better than the young lady's Dokian here that sits next in class. Maybe the biggest cage and probably the most muscular that lies here in class. Also the most vertically challenged, the earliest maturing, the shortest face, shortest neck, lowest set to the ground. It's all wrong from a maturity pattern for me. I want that one longer and more extended in the growth curve. We round out the class with a black-headed one here, the narrowest, the front, the flattest, the lightest muscle of those that we have here in this particular grouping. Let's congratulate these kids, if you will.
Placing class 6, first, Graham Newsom. Second, Kellen Hart. Third, Mason Hart. Fourth, Shay Lothar. Fifth, Jacob Kidd. Sixth, Irvin Sears. Seventh, Harold Reed. And at this time, we'll be bringing first and second place in the class for the medium weight division. And that will be those first two here out of class 5. We have Mason Hart first, Graham Newsom second, in class 4, Burgess Spears first, and Harold Reed second.
nice division drive out here, training day for a few of these, and that's part of it. Some of them been, I'm sure, to the ring, and just got to get them used to some of that. Here out of our first class, high-end just in terms of our look and our balance here in our class winner, one that's fresh back and smooth to the touch, very attractive, more elevated, better top line, better in terms of feet and leg placement than the one that was second there. This one needs a little more muscle shape, needs to be bigger and bolder in terms of dimension out to her hip. But good stock here out of that first class. Second class of this division, competitive pair. Opted to use the one that comes a little wider and bolder in his cage. He's a little plainer in terms of his look out here. Just set lower in his neck, his shoulders a little rounder, a little easier top. The one behind him, the one not wanting to work or walk today, big time look just in terms of balance and profile there. It's a little flatter in his lower cage. He's a little greener and skinnier, but big in terms of his edge and his loin, big in his spin set as well. Oh, a nice class there that had two nice goes back in our drive. I just talked these out of this last class. I thought a competitive pair, a pair that was sound and practical, useful, and still, when you get your hands on that pair, they're shapely, they're dimensional. Opt to use the one that's stronger top, lever out to his hip. Here on the front end, a little more unique in terms of his look, a little stouter down low in his feature. And then we've got a really good body one in the back, sweeping in his underline, big time just in terms of his cage and his cylindrical shape. Very flexible. I like that pair quite a bit out of that class. Those in this particular division, those are my fave. Let's congratulate those kids out of the heavyweight here.
All right, our champion middleweight division goes to Graham Newsom. Reserve goes to Kellen Hart. Next in the ring will be class 7, and with weights ranging from 93 to 97 pounds.
Yeah. What do you want? Huh?
Well, this particular class, no point ever was the no kid up front getting beat. She's the best in her body, she's the best in her structure, she's the best in her muscularity. She balances up nice from the side. In terms of her cage, underline, her top line and shape. Now, I'd like to make her stouter down low. I'd like to make her bigger footed, put a little more hair on her, and she's balanced that much better. To the world of goats, we can love her out of her hip and her pin set. But a nice one there in terms of body type and muscularity. Like I said, at no point ever here was that one getting beat in this particular class. The one it comes to in the class is the one that's the most like that one in terms of cage, in terms of soundness out of our hip and back to hip and hock and rear fastener. That one is fresh back, fresh in terms of rack shape and loin edge. Reach more shapely in our back leg and better in terms of our twist. I like to make it balanced just a bit better, strengthening there in his rear passer and just make him a little stouter down low. But genuinely, that thing's good cage. He's got some shape up high. His cutability is going to be extremely good in this particular lineup. Nice place to be with the second. Good body, one comes free in class, big-footed, one that's got a lot of feature down low. Got a nice rib cage in this one that has some shape up high. I take issue when I get out to our hip and our back leg. I want that one to be just a bit square in. I want that one to maintain a square look on the go. We read it from a cycle to a hop and back here to the faster. Paint coat comes next in class, one that's got some body and cage. One for me that just needs to be stouter down low at the surface. I like back leg posture a bit better than the two who come directly behind. A real safely goat, the young man here has set him on his touches. That one's pretty nice in terms of his forehead. Gets long shoulder, shine sits up high, gets pretty wedgy when you read him hooks the pin. Well, we got to make that one more flexible and useful out of his rear too. Similar story back here, other than we have more foot size and bone work. That one gets really wedgy back here in the back and wants to draw that leg back in tight to each other. Want to just open them up and change the way he's organized there from a skeletal quality standpoint. Congratulations, kids, if you would.
Placings in class 7. First, Mason Hart. Second, Jared Head. Third, Jacob Head. Fourth, Harold Reed. Fifth, Different Head. And sixth, Jesse Head. Now entering ring, we have class 8. Weight ranging from 100 to 104.
Otherwise, the densest option here, since the young man's up at the front, one, I'll be the first to tell you, I want to see her a little bigger footed. I want to see her just a little further, but that one's got a big cage. She's very bold right there in the rack. Big, 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 and full and thick at the edge of her loin. One for me, I think just balance is better in the center of her body. One that does bigger in her hip, bigger ended. One that's deeper twisted, just has, today I think functions a bit better, probably out of the rear too. When it comes to in class is the more elevated option, the one that's more attractive up front, just in terms of size and elevation. I like that thing quite a bit. Want to freshen that one in terms of the edge of our loin. Want to make that one bigger at our upper hip and pin set, square his hock up just a bit as we set it in motion. But two nice ones there as they run at the front of the class. But when it comes free in class, I like that one in terms of elevation up front. Pretty fresh right there down our back. One that gives up too much shape when you reach the last rib back to hip, the pin set, the side shape comparative to the two up front. That one's just got to be more powered up from our last rib back right down our top line out to our hip and pin set. More powerful option comes four in class. Also the smallest, earliest maturing, shortest in terms of a growth curve. Little rounder shoulder, rounder hip, little piecey. Want to just make that one more attractive. I like the cutability and the muscularity, sort of make it more elevated. Push his shoulder into it, smooth it up, and his hip will change his posture on his rear too. Goat that comes next in class gets a little harder in terms of her forerib, a little frailer down low, rounder in her hip. Want to make that one just a bit more genuine in terms of rib cage. He's got some cutability going, and I like that about him. Just gets a little frailer and plainer. You're eating a little feces, rounded his shoulder, flattened his forehead, rounded his hip. Want to change those things about it. He's not as fresh as the ones that come up in front end of this class. When it comes next in class, the leveler option right down our top and out through our hip. Also the narrower option of those that come up front. Want to open that one up in terms of chest floor, pin set, like that one stouter, coming stouter going away. Pressure option in the one behind, the sounder option though in the one behind. Young lady in pink here's got one. We need to lay that one blade back, level him up at his hips, square him up at his hock. We've got one here in the back. It's got big muscles and one that's got big feet and legs. His structure's not good enough for me. He's up in his shoulder blade. He sits forward, breaks in his top line, rounder at his hip. We've got to level him out. Have to change his structure to his skeleton to move him up. Congratulate those kids, if you will.
Placing for Class A. First, Mason Hart. Second, Gracie Joe Newsom. Third, Jesse Head. Fourth, Jared Head. Fifth, Scotland Bickle. Sixth, Carol Reed. Seventh, Kinsley Blackford. And eighth, Bonnie Thrasher. Next up, we will have our final GOAT class of the day. Bring in Class 9, weights ranging from 117 to 132.
It is so cool. So cool. I have one. I watched it. I can't quite put it to the one. I just
Well, a pair of better looking ones, better balanced ones up here toward the front of the class. And what I land on is one of the best in terms of his pin set, his hawk placement. He's better in terms of how he sets his back passing down. I like the rib cage in this guy. He's pretty fresh to be this big. He's the nicest looking from the side. He's the best down his top. The best in terms of how he cuts into his chest. Moves the best out of his rear too of the top ones that we have here. Big fronted goat comes next in class, shapely kind of goat, pretty fresh, just gets his hop in. When we set him in motion, he gets more rigid in terms of where he sets his back foot. I want to change his back leg posture compared to our class winner in order to move that one up. Put a nice goat there as well. But when it comes free in class, there was some give and take there. For me, I think he's genuinely a little better in his back foot in terms of where he sets his angle there. For me, he's a little shorter, steeper hip, not as bold, not as fresh at the edge of his joint, a little rounder at his lower shoulder than the one that sets it too. Nice one here, just in terms of his lower rib cage, his cylindrical body shape compared to the one that comes behind it. I think there's just a little more look to it right there behind his shoulder. So when it comes forward class, 6-footed kind of a goat, pretty soft, pretty plain middle. Want to change him, make him a little fresher, a little firmer to the touch, and make him just more unique right down his top line compared to those in front. Found out our class was one that is pretty level in terms of its design. The frailest, the narrowest, the lightest muscle here in this particular class of heavyweight. Congratulations, kids, if you will.
Placing for class 9, first place, Jacob Head. Second place, Jesse Head. Third place, Jared Head. Fourth place, Jacob Head. And fifth place, Scott Pickle. All right, that concludes class 9. Now we will be showing for the heavyweight division champion. And we'll have the first and second place out of this class. Out of class 8, we need Mason Hart with first, Gracie Joe Mitchell with second, and then out of class 7, Mason Hart first, and Jared Head second.
playing just in terms of some of these classes in the heavyweight division, which is not unnatural or abnormal. A lot of times we get that, particularly when they get to heavier weights, they tend to get a little finer. As we bring these though back out, I think we got some nice ones here in the ring. Out of our first class, a unique looking one that needs to be stouter down low, but one that's good bodied, fresh, square, attractive on the move, and one that you just have to appreciate from a balance and eye feel standpoint. One who was second out of that particular class, not as good just in terms of balance and look, a little rougher in the way that one's designed right there, center body back to loin edge, back to hip. Out of the second class of this division, a real wide, powerful one, big, bold, ripped one, comes ahead in front, a dope kid, a big back, stout, fresh, one that you have to appreciate there. I like the pin set, I like the flex in the back leg versus the stouter weather that come second out of that middle class. Big footed, big featured one back there in the back, taller, shoulder, one that's high end just in terms of his look. Not as big as his hip or pin set that moved as well today, right there out of his rear too, but a nice one there as well. Come here to the heavies, just talked about him. More unique looking one here that comes out of our front, and one that's better his hip, hock, and back pasture. Kate fronted one over there, it's a little pushy, just in terms of how he's designed there in back and wants to wedge a bit more as you just get right in behind it. Nice stock out here. My favorite one comes out of our first class. That will be our champ in this division. Second class winner will be your reserve. Put your hands together if you will.
Congratulations on the division champion, heavyweight division champion, Mason Hart, reserve champion, Mason Hart. And as we're preparing to come back into the ring for the show for Grand Champions Go, just a reminder, our lightweight champion was shown by Kellen Hart. Gracie Joe Newsom had the reserve champion, medium weight. The champion was shown by Graham Newsom, reserve champion by Kellen Hart. And then, as we said, the heavy both champion and reserve were Mason Hart. While our judge is working on this, we have our showmanship list. Juniors that will need to be coming back in the ring will be Breckin Thrasher, Gracie Newsom, Irvin Spears, Graham Newsom, Jacob Head, Jared Head, and Clete Barrett. Seniors will be Cale Brunson, Kellen Hart, Lonnie Thrasher, Molly Crutchman, Mason Hart, Shay Volcott, Harold Reed, Jesse Head, and Scott Van
That's a board, that's fine. Here. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
We'll put an outfit show out here. I think differences throughout classes, we ended up with some that are pretty genuine just in terms of width and mass, have the right kind of shape. And I think there's different endpoints here that we're looking at amongst these that we have out of these particular divisions. If you would put your hands together for all the kiddos that show today, and for the ones that make it back here out of your division. So here out of our lightweights, one I used is big body, very, very big back, very fresh to the touch, one that's massive just in terms of design and width. Comes to us maybe a little plainer that's perfect. Wanted to elevate that one up just a bit. Reserve lightweight, high ceiling for me, one that's big footed, good in terms of its body type, not ready to go, but one that you have to appreciate for his shape that you see in him. Didn't think he was quite as dense as our division champion there, but a good one from a bonework standpoint, near impeccable here in this particular lineup. The one that comes out of the middleweight division, he's the wildest looking one. He's big footed, he's flat spine, he's good out of his hip and pin set. One that comes to the surface on a really, really big stout foot. And very unique in terms of top line and hip placement. One that's square rack, big at the edge of his loin. I think he was just a bit more attractive and stouter featured than the one that came reserve out of that division. I like that tank goat. I like his underline, his cylindrical body shape. He's flexible in back, and one that I felt like that was a nice pair of goats that come out of that particular division. A lot of quality there. Just here in the heavyweights, I like the one just from a balance and eye appeal standpoint, from proportions. I like this one that comes here ahead and wins that particular division. She's not as big-footed or as furry as what we care to see, but I think her balance is awful good. I like her shape from the side. I like her body type. I like her freshness of handle as you touch her there from her rack back to the edge of her loin. She moves well. She's flexible. She gets around the ring. We had a stout one there in the back, one that's a little lower second shoulder and neck. Big in terms of her cage, big top and powered up. One that's not as attractive as we get them in motion here as our class winner, is our division champion out of the heavies, but a nice one as well. So I think lots of quality here. I think there's different things you can do. Frankly, my favorites come out in the middleweights. That's going to be your champion and your reserve.
Our grand champion goat today is chosen by Graham Newsom. Our reserve grand chosen by Kellen Hart. And then we'll conclude our goat show today by having our junior and senior showmanship with the juniors first. And while we're waiting on our exhibitors to get ready, let's give Glenn Martin a round of applause for the job he's done today.
Well, let's congratulate these juniors that make it back out in this particular scholarship. Each of them has done some things that everyone has done some things that it's really right, some things that we probably want to change about them. I think as we get down to this point, we need to look at who does the most things right, where they're at, where they're supposed to be. I think there's one out here that's just a little more comfy, one that probably does a little better job of setting legs, making that one just stand up and be more attractive. Y'all congratulate the young lady here on the end and the flower sheriff. She'll be your champion. Give yourself.
Junior scholarship winner is Gracie Joe Newsom. Now we'll have our senior showman re-enter the ring.
congratulate all these finalists, if you will, that come back through here, the seniors. Once again, I think we've got a very competitive group at various times. There's 3 or 4 of them that make them look the best just across the board. And I think that we've got, frankly, got some issue with some of them just in terms of feet and leg placement or where their body is when they set, go, and walk. I just think there's some give and take and some trade-off here. Probably is not as much of a clear-cut winner in this one as I felt like there was in the juniors or in the land showmanship. Either one. Feet and leg placement gets a little off in a few of these. Some of you let their top lines move a little in terms of deviation where we don't need them to be. Put your hands together one more time. I'll give you a chance out here.